You're listening to Parasearch Radio, news, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio. Parasearch Radio, broadcasting to the UK and beyond.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. You're listening to Kerry Greenaway and Mark Manley on the Dark Mirror Paranormal Show, only on Parasearch Radio.
Good evening and welcome to the Dark Mirror Paranormal Show. It is your usual Friday fun and frolics. Obviously, it's me. I'm Kerry Greenaway. And in the studio tonight, our lovely Mark Manley can't join us. But I have the usual Kaz Rooney. Good evening, Kaz. How are you?
Good evening. I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. And we have a guest
We
co-host.
We do.
We do indeed. It's the lovely Carl Hutchinson. Good evening, Carl.
Good evening, ladies. How are we both doing this evening?
Yeah, we're good, thanks. How are you?
We're good, thanks.
I'm too good. It's good to be back on this whatever. So
Twice this week.
I know, it's going to become a regular. You have to get me on full time.
I think maybe I should start paying you.
You don't pay us.
Oh, sorry, did I fail to do that?
Yeah.
We'll talk afterwards.
Okay, we'll talk afterwards. Anyway, like my little spidey senses are kicking off.
Okay.
Because I've got like a feeling, I've got something coming through. Let me, hold on, it's coming through strong. What is it? Might be our topic tonight. Kaz, send it to me, I'm going to pick it up. ESP and telepathy, that is what we're talking about tonight. Did you like that?
No.
Put your hands on the screen. Feel that vibe.
Feel the vibe. What's coming through? Okay, so ESP and telepathy, guys. First of all, what do we think ESP and telepathy is? Well, let's go with ESP first, because telepathy is like a little bit of a sad topic. So ESP, I love the way you're tuning in there, Carl.
I don't know whether that's tuning in or just
face palming.
Absolute panic.
It's a variety show. You wanted to come on. That's all I can say.
Yeah, we'll cover it.
So what do you think it is, guys? Come on.
The Claires.
Okay,
Yeah.
So I know quite a few Claires.
Mm-hmm.
What Claires are you talking about?
All of them.
All of them. Can you name some of them?
Crikey. No, I can't.
She can't really?
Do you know what? My brain isn't working today. It's all this heat.
Okay, well, the Claires are basically
Clairsentience.
Clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairaudience, clairempathy, clairgustance, clairsentience, clairtangency, and clairsalience. They're your Claires.
There's a lot of Claires.
There's an awful lot of Claires, isn't there? A lot of Claires in the room tonight. So let's break this down. Clairvoyance. What do we think clairvoyance is?
It's seeing or visualising something.
Mm-hmm. 10 out of 10, 10 points, a gold star and a merit badge. Claire, cognizance.
That's hearing, isn't it?
No.
It's feeling.
Oh, shit.
No.
Oh.
It's feeling.
Strike one for Carl Hutchinson. It's clear knowing. Cognizance. So like when you get a precog,
Yeah.
Claire,
Is that feeling?
that's knowing.
I'm going to be rubbish at this.
Claire, no, you'll get this one. This one's quite self-explanatory. Claire, audience.
Would that be hearing?
Yes. Yes.
Yay!
Claire, empathy.
Feeling.
Emotional feeling.
Same thing.
No, it's not.
If you feel an emotion, aren't you still feeling the emotion?
Yeah, but there's different ways of feeling.
And it's whether or not
yes,
it's
there
your
is.
emotion you're feeling.
See? Claire, empathy is emotional feeling. Right, now, Claire, gustance.
Yes.
Tasting.
Claire, sentience.
Hearing.
No, that's physical feeling.
Feeling.
I told you. Sorry, viewers. Sorry, listeners. I am going to be absolutely rubbish on this.
No, you're not.
Claire, tangency. Look at the screen. I'm giving them visual clues now, everybody.
I know what it is. I'm
Claire,
waiting for Carl.
tangency.
No, don't wait for me. Just chip in whenever you
Touching.
Touching. Yep, touching. And Claire, salience, which is...
smell.
No.
Sounds like.
Oh God!
Sorry,
honestly,
sorry,
we've got
sorry,
a whole like what's that?
Sorry,
Like
listeners. It looks like a really bad. On what you can't see is it's a really bad gives a clue. We've got it's a film. It's a whatever.
it's a film.
That's
It's a
all I'm
book.
getting. That's all I'm getting at the moment. I do apologise.
Smelling. Claire,
That's what I
salience
said.
is smelling. No, you didn't. You said tasting.
No, you didn't.
No,
Oh,
I
all
didn't.
right then. Okay, we'll give you that then. Oh,
No, you're
okay,
cheating,
fair
Katie.
enough. I love the way. Oh, Ashley's in the chat room. Good evening, Ashley.
Oh, chat room.
Yeah, don't forget the chat room, everybody. Oh, okay. He's gone all sensible already. It's Friday.
Oh.
Anyway. So those are what we basically class as the Claires in, when we're talking about ESP. Now, okay, so let's take a little look. Oh, for God's sakes. Sorry, my computer is having a right nightmare. Okay, so do we think that everybody has these abilities, shall we say?
I think they do, but you do as a child, but as you get older, society molds you and you kind of lose that. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You kind of, you do things this way and this way and this way, so you lose that kind of ability because you're molded into thinking a certain way and behaving a certain way.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Cancer just said, but I think also anybody at any stage in their life can do any of the Claires, so to speak. So it's a bit like the whole scenario of everybody can draw, but at what level?
True. That's a very good analogy there.
I know that's a real dumbed down way of saying it, but that's true. It's everybody can draw, so everybody at some point can experience or progress their path in the mediumship way of doing the various different. I don't want to keep on saying Claires, but I want to sort of say in different stages of their ability, so you can then train yourself to explore what is possibly going on.
I agree, and I think what will happen is it will manifest in a way that's actually suited to you. So what you become good at, actually, the clear sense, what is your strongest point will be what develops best.
Yeah.
And that's not the same for everybody. But everybody can develop some level of ESP.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's all to do with the different type of. I as a non-experienced person in this field, I would just say that there's what I've spoken to about a few people in the field that have experienced various different stages. You sort of, when you're on your path, you sort of get pushed towards one way or another, and then as you progress, potentially other aspects start to come in, and then at your final goal, you potentially could have all of the different types of elements in one aspect.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
Is that true, or is that just me just being...
No, I don't necessarily agree with that,
fluid?
because I know somebody who, when they are sitting there naturally, like normal, everyday person, can't draw to save their life, but when they're set their mind in a specific state and they're channeling, they can draw amazing pictures, not photos, pictures, because they're channeling that. So that is something, is a bit different, isn't it?
See, I think if you're kind of open to one of the clairs, put it that way, then you're able to do the others, but it takes practice.
Yeah.
And it's something, it isn't like you can do all of them at once. It's, you learn this and then you go on to something else, then you learn that, but not necessarily that you go out your way to learn it, it's just you become more and more open to it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. But
Hal's
this is
just scratching
something.
his head.
But this has been looked at quite extensively from a experimental, shall we say, rather than scientific, because whenever people have experimented with this kind of work, the methodology has come under serious fire. So we'll go with experimental with this one, I think.
What I think you're just trying to basically look at there is a way of monitoring the brain to see how the brain reacts to certain things.
No, because when you think...
No, on a scientific level, if you're looking at something that is picking up on something, you need to know what's inside the inner dome of a person, brain-wise.
Now they're looking at that, but they didn't originally, because they didn't have that technology.
I wasn't talking about back in the day, because obviously they wouldn't know. Back in the day when they just was feeling bumps and all sorts. I'm just talking about well, at the end of the day, there was that whole thing that people used to do where you could feel bumps on people's heads.
Yeah,
where they could, like, look at it. I can't remember the actual name of it. But, you felt the bumps on somebody's head. And
I know
then
what
you
you're
could
talking about.
Yeah, because they used to have those things you can buy in charity shops where you had this human head and you could see the different areas and indicating the different areas that could possibly produce the same things that are going in the head. So obviously back in the day when they didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah. Well, there have been various experiments that have been conducted to demonstrate this form of non-sensory perception. Now, basically, the most famous one is obviously the famous study that took place in the United States in the 1930s. Now, J.B. Rhine conducted experiments using something known as xenocards. Now, do we know what the xenocards are?
They are the cards that are hearts,
the waves and stars,
spade, wave stars,
crosses and a square. There's five, isn't there?
Anybody that doesn't know what they are, if you watch the film Ghostbusters, at the start of the film of Ghostbusters, when they're starting out, there's people putting a card up at the screen saying wave, star, heart, whatever. And that's the sort of cards that you're talking about.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Now, participants in the experiment were asked to guess which card would be dealt next from the pack. And Rhine noted that the number of correct guesses was significantly above what would have been expected from chance alone. Okay, now I've done this kind of experiment But I didn't do it with Zena cards. I did it with tarot cards, bearing in mind tarot cards has a huger range of chance. Mm-hmm. It was a shuffled deck, and we picked 5 cards out of, well, I think it was more than 5 actually, because we were doing it as a team. And I put them in an envelope. I didn't know which ones were, and so I did it blind. Picked cards out, put them in envelopes. Then when we all got together, we shuffled the envelopes, passed them around the group. So I didn't know what cards were in the envelopes. I didn't know who was going to get what card. And we sat around and we focused on the envelope, pulled out the card, said our images of what was in the envelope. And we had some very interesting results. So it's a very similar kind of theory, basically.
Yeah.
Because nobody knew what was in these envelopes, rather.
I have seen an experiment done with Zena cards on a location I was at, and the one person in one room and another person in another room, and one would pull out a card, another one had to guess it. The walkie-talkies. I do have to say it was a bit of an epic fail, but they did try.
Yeah. But it is interesting, isn't it? Oh, for goodness sakes, my poxy. It's all good fun. But because of this, now the trouble is, this did come under some criticism. Like I said before, the methodology, and some were claiming in regards to J.B. Ryan, said that the cards are partially translucent and in strong lighting conditions you might be able to make out the design of the card on the other side. Yeah. You know, but it did sort of like usher in a kind of new way of thinking or a new way of testing for this kind of ability, didn't it?
Yeah.
Just, yeah.
Yeah, it did. I think it was a pretty basic but a good experiment.
It's not a bad experiment in
it's not
itself.
Bad. It was basic, but it was good. But it was basic. But like people had said at the time, maybe they didn't conduct it maybe the way we would conduct it now.
Exactly, because this is back in the 1930s.
Yeah.
So, you know, you've got to remember the time that these experiments took place. Now, the other thing was, because there's only 5 cards.
Yeah.
And the way it was done was it's the next card you have to predict.
Yeah.
Not what's in an envelope kind of scenario. Yeah. You are then opening yourself up to, is it ESP or is it telepathy?
That's true.
Well, that's the issue, because you've also got another level of that, is the reality to coincidence, where you hold something in front of somebody and say, "What is this?" And you give them 5 options, and you say, "What's this?" And you put it into a group, and you and I've done this sort of experiment, not myself personally, but I've witnessed it through somebody else, where in a group of people you do 5 times. So basically the first card you pull up, you then say who saw wavy line, star, whatever, and then those people then basically who didn't get it sat down, and you carried on and carried on and carried on. And there is that sort of mentality where you can basically be lucky and choose the right outcome every single time.
And we've also seen very famous mentalists do this on audiences, where they can lead a huge group of people, like an audience, into drawing or putting forward something. So it takes it a step further. Is it a mentalist thing? Is it a, cues, even subconscious cues by the research, the guy who's doing it. I mean, bearing in mind we're going right back in time, so we're not with it. They're not got the knowledge we have now. You know what I mean? So you have got to sort of like, it's a bit like higher, lower, kind of game, isn't it? With 5 cards.
But at the end of the day, Kerry, people in the day people now are using the same sort of skills.
That's true.
What they describe as cold reading or whatever. So
True.
you will say certain things to somebody to say, okay, what you're thinking, blah, 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 and they will give some sort of telltale sign. But in the control experiment that you were talking about, these people were in different rooms.
Yeah.
They were separated, and they had literally just one person. And obviously then it then comes down to luck comes into it, because at the end of the day you can be lucky.
Very true.
And you can say star, circle, whatever, and be correct all the way through. Doesn't mean you are that way inclined.
No.
But when it comes down to certain other elements and you bring it into, maybe there's something more, but you have to keep at the back of your mind this whole luck element. And luck is not paranormal, is not
It's fickle.
anything.
It's very fickle, isn't it, Luck?
It's very fickle, and I think that's where mediums come into the paranormal. That you can have some brilliant mediums that don't do the cold calling, don't do the cold reading, if you are in separate locations or whatever, and they get hits, and then you also then walk people through the same time on a different time, other people walking through, and then you basically look at the data and see what hits are the same. And if it's like one hit, okay, fair enough, coincidence. But then if it's more and more hits, then possibly you could then look at it that there is something that ties it in.
Well,
Ashley Nibbits just said, not when the odds were greater than 1 million to 1. It's not luck as the results were greater than chance.
you know what? He's jumping well ahead of our research. He's jumping well ahead of our research. I just don't agree. You know, he should do that. He hasn't even seen the research. How naughty of him in the chat room there.
But you got to remember, Ashley's coming from a completely scientific point of view.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, because
at the end
he
of the
buys
day-
into telepathic interaction quite an awful lot.
He does, but he doesn't. He sits on that fence and gets splinters up his watch.
Oh, I might have to pull Mr. Nib on this show.
I'm being quite honest there. But at the end of the day, if you want to break it down to the most bottom level, you could have somebody sitting the other side of a room every time you pull a card going diamond, wavy line, heart, circle. And this person on the other side is picking that up in their head and going, blah, 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 blah. And you tick it off. But there's also that other chance where this person is extremely lucky. And lucky is a big thing in the paranormal, where they could say, bang, 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 and get the same matches. Does that mean they are picking up on it, or they're just being lucky?
I don't know, but anyway, what happened was it evolved, experiment evolved, and to counteract some of the criticisms that were put against this particular experiment, they came up with a new experiment, which we all know about, and it was known as the Gansfield technique. Now, in this procedure, subjects lie on a sofa, their eyes are covered with headphones broadcasting white noise into their ears. A red light is shone onto the subject. Relaxation exercises are performed before the test begins. Now, that's quite key, right? And it's usually at least 20 to 30 minutes before the experiment begins. Okay. Then a sender in another room picks a distinctive image and concentrates on it. Doesn't have to be part of the Xenocard experiment, but an image, and telepathically tries to communicate it to the receiver in the other room. So there is no feeding that person, because they are like completely deaf and blind, effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Okay.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Now, after a period of time, the receiver emerges from his sensory isolation and is shown a number of images and asked to judge which one corresponds most closely to any impressions they received during this isolation period.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, now that we know now that this has evolved, but we're looking purely at what was originally the Gansfield technique. Now, using this technique, the American researcher Charles Honiton, we need
Honiton.
Mark for that bit.
Honiton.
Honiton demonstrated statistically significant results, validating the existence of telepathic communication. I love that. He's got his hand up. Oh, who dropped out?
Nobody?
Oh, somebody dropped and came back. Anyway.
No, that's me.
Ah,
sorry,
right.
that was me.
Is that because you put your hand up?
Yeah. I touched.
However, some have since called his use of statistics, that word, and therefore the validity of his results into question. But this particular, we all know about the Gansfield experiment, don't we? It's been recreated a million times over and over, even to this day. People try and recreate this, but it's almost a telepathic interaction rather than an extrasensory perception. And there's a big difference.
Can I just ask one question on that?
You may.
You're saying that if you have two people in different places,
Yup.
one person being completely cut off
Yep.
from everything, so auditory, visual, whatever, then they come out of that room and that other person in another area will think of something, and then the other person get asked, what are they thinking? Is that what you're talking about?
Basically, while you're in this sensory deprivation state, you are then, the other person is sending you images or, thoughts or whatever. Now, you have to log that before you come out of that state, log what you've read, and then join in. And the original experiment showed you images, and you had to pick which one fitted what you were imagining the best. The experiment has since evolved, and is now using flotation tanks. We discussed this with Cal Cooper recently. So
which
the
I think is
Gansfield has kind of been so done, and it's now evolved into sort of a more modern time. But we're talking about the original, the very, very first experiment with Gansfield.
Which, on paper, sounds great, because
It sounds great.
If somebody comes out of it and says, I'm seeing a windmill, blah, blah, blah.
I saw a mouse there.
There
on the stairs.
Exactly. We're on the stairs with the clock on. But then again, the person on the other side gives an answer that potentially could meet what they're saying. Is that a hit?
Because you're focusing on a particular image. No, you're focused on a particular image. Yeah, so you go into your Gansfield eye goggles, white noisy room, yeah, and then you go, right, okay, as the control person, you go, right, this is the image you have to focus on, right? So say it is, I don't know, the fallen Madonna with the big boobies. Right, so you focus on that image, and you are focusing on the image, but focusing also on transmitting that image to the person in the other room under the sensory deprivation.
So it's a sender and a receive type of...
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Right,
Okay.
and then you take away that image, you pull the person out, you sort of say, okay, you give them five different photographs or 5 different paintings, including the fallen Madonna with the big boobies. Yeah, right. And then you see which one fits what they were receiving at the time they were under sensory deprivation.
Okay, so you're trying to basically pull out every possible chance out of it. And then what you will do is some obscure person might say, I was thinking of the fallen Madonna with the big boobies.
Yeah.
And the bloke will go, yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Well, yeah, the control says that's exactly the image I was showing.
Wouldn't that be if you asked, say, 10 people, 20 people, 30 people, 100 people,
That's where your
people?
Yeah, but that's where your data starts building up, isn't it?
Yeah,
Is
exactly.
the telepathic interaction thing. But that's telepathic interaction, not, in my view, ESP. I kind of see these things as two completely different things.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you. I would
Yeah.
completely agree with you, Kerry.
And that's my viewpoint on this.
Yeah.
Because I think, like most things in the paranormal, you can get pigeonholed in the same slot as everything else.
Yeah.
So if you are picking up on something as a medium, you're going to get pigeoned into that hole, or you're doing that and then whatever. Not saying anything in the paranormal is wrong. I'm just saying that
it's you shouldn't pigeonhole.
Potentially, what luck or skill or inbuilt feelings are feeling.
The problem we have is, if you want to take it into in the investigation field, is generally you'll have some sensitives on the team. You'll have somebody who's a designated researcher. Yeah. So how can you then, looking at the results that we've had from these kind of telepathic interactions, how can you then discount that what the sensitives are getting isn't actually from the person who did the research prior to the investigation?
I think that's
and
an easy
not
question.
actually from spirit or the location itself.
Sorry, I think that's an easy question to think, because a one-time case, it's a bit like saying one-time personal evidence. You have to have multiple before you can draw to a conclusion.
Definitely.
So if you go into a room and the person who is that way in tuned says, right, blah, 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 you then look at every other possible data, then you go into another location and go, I believe in blah, 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 and you bring in the other data, and then you look at it as a whole and then realise, okay, there are links. I don't believe, like anything, like a photograph or a personal experience, that you can count that on base level without follow-up. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying. I do get what you're saying. But I also think you shouldn't discount a level of telepathic interaction.
Oh, no. I would never discount anything on an investigation, because on review or personal experience, you can break it down.
Yeah.
But then
what I'm saying is a one-off hit from somebody evidence?
No.
That's what I was trying to make out.
No, of course not. And then if you bring the clairs into it, if you get a taste when you're on an investigation, no matter how well you've researched it, right, the only thing I would say about that is if when the person was doing research and they were eating strawberries, then all of a sudden you're getting to that point and you're going, oh, I'm at this particular, I'm getting the taste of strawberries. That would to me indicate a telepathic interaction. But if you're getting that and they go, no idea what they're talking about there, but we'll go with that. That's more of an ESP thing. That's more of a sentient thing. That's more of a sensory, non-available thing. You're not going to get a taste of strawberries just out of nowhere, are you? But if the person had been eating strawberries while they were doing the research, it kind of, which way are you going with this?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you're talking about there's certain levels of hits.
Exactly. But this is what you have to be aware of.
And how many hits are you then going to think, This is more than just coincidence. And I think Ashley, probably in the chat room, is probably spitting his dummy out of his mouth at the moment.
He's basically said, why is telepathic interaction different from ESP?
Well, because one thing is said to have come from an extrasensory, so it's extra to what your normal physical responses are going to pick up on. Yeah. So that's extra. Whereas telepathy is going to come from another person in that room. It's a telepathic interaction between people. We're not talking the collective unconscious or anything like that. A telepathy is from person to person.
Which I understand.
Whereas extrasensory perception comes from external perception. It's external to the people in the room. It's external to anything else that's going on.
Yeah.
But either way, not coming from a me point of view, which is probably wrong.
I'm wrong. Ashley says, I'm wrong, in his opinion.
Okay, well, Ashley can say that. What I want to say is, from my point of view, is both points of view are valid. But until you research and look at both point of views, you can't judge a judgment, or you can't come to a conclusion until you've looked at both.
No, I don't disagree with you from a scientific point of view. However, from a point of view from the standpoint we're at from this day and age,
you can't say either way.
Anyway.
In my eyes, anyway.
Okay. Well,
because of one reason only. Because there's always going to be somebody going, there's too many other factors that could potentially give you other reasons.
Too many variables.
Too many variables. Too many this, that, and the others. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. So let's have a little look. Telepathy is quite common amongst family members or twins and people like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In one experiment, which was televised in Britain, an 8-year-old boy underwent various experiments where his twin brother sat in a sealed room, hooked up to a lie detector, and we've talked about this recently about lie detectors, haven't we, about the validity of lie detectors, but he was hooked up to a lie detector, allowing his physiological state to be monitored. When the first twin placed his hand into some cold water, the second twin, unaware of what was happening to his other twin, showed a clear bodily reaction to that. And then when the first twin experienced fear, as a rubber snake popping suddenly out of a box, again, the second showed a measurable reaction. And twin telepathy, if we want to class it as that, or link, is actually quite common, isn't it?
Absolutely. Even come down to the most basic level is people that I've spoken to, and I've got a couple of very good friends that are twins, and identical twins, so they look the same, whatever. And there are other ones that I know that are twins. And they experience this from the day to day, is when somebody has a bad day, they realise they're having a bad day. There's no way of proving there's a connection.
No.
Unless you zip up the heads and you put whatever's to it. All that sort of malarkey. But this happens on a day-to-day basis. It's like the famous saying is, one twin knows what the other one is thinking.
Yeah.
You can't prove it, but there are cases out there that this happens. Tell me not. Am I wrong?
No, I completely agree with you. I think there are so many cases of this happening, and I've even known strong links that have been formed between people not connected by blood, as it were. Mm-hmm. So just like as in bonded people, people that have bonded in an emotional way have had awareness of situations happening in another person's life.
Absolutely, and I've got very good friends that are twins. Both of them are paranormal investigators. Both live different ends of the country, and I've investigated with both people. And there's been cases where we've gone into a location, and all of a sudden the other twin has text saying, "Are you okay? I'm picking up on something." Now, I can't prove that is
telepathy or ESP
Telepathy
or whatever way you want to look at it. There's an
Or
awareness,
whatever.
whatever you want to class it as. There's an awareness.
Awareness.
But at the end of the day, they've come from one egg that's split,
Yeah,
that has moved across, so they are connected. Scientifically, they are connected.
yeah.
So if they are connected, identical, or whatever, there's going through their lives, they're always going to be connected, in my eyes anyway. I might talk rubbish, but in my eyes, that if a identical twin picks up on something when they're in different locations and they interact with that person, is that a case of what we're discussing tonight? Is it not? Or is it something Janine-wise?
It's difficult because I say I've seen this happen between people that have formed a bond without that genetic link as well. And I've experienced that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So whether or not it's a emotional bond, I mean, twins, you can't get much closer than a bond between twins from an egg to being born to life. You know what I mean? You can't argue with that bond. Do you know what I mean? That there's always going to be that twin bond, isn't there? But I've seen it happen between people without that genetic link as well. And I've experienced that.
I must admit, I'd be interested in what Ashley Nib, our good friend, thinks of this. Is it something that is related to genetics when it's a twin on twin or a whatever? Is it genetics? I don't know this.
I don't think it's all down to genetics. I think there's an emotional bond that's stronger than anything that genetics can. I think emotional will override genetics every single day of the week.
I absolutely agree with you.
Ashley's in the chat room and he says, spot on, KJ. Telepathic links are strengthened, it would seem, by emotional bonds.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I would just like to say, who's TJ, Ashley?
That's KJ.
KJ.
Well,
it's KJ. That's me.
He needs to type it right. Come on, Ashley. Come on. You're all about
said
data.
it wrong.
All I would say is 50 years
My
down
bad,
the line,
not
somebody reads the transcript and it says a different initial, people are going, oh, hang on. Data, Ashley. Remember that.
Morphic resonance.
Oh, morphic resonance. We've got to love a bit of morphics. He does have to bring terms in, doesn't he? Bless him. Right.
Okay. Kerry.
Yes.
We're talking about this, and we got Ashley, who is Mr. Scientific, Mr. Whatever. Get him on. Bring him on. Come on.
All right. Okay. Well, if he's on Skype, I will. But
Sorry.
Right, Kaz, hold the field while I search out Mr. Nib Guide. Oh, you're going to have to boot your Skype up, Mr. Nib. If you, he's like, no, I'm not coming on the show. Yeah, boot your Skype up, Ashley. So it is a very interesting concept, whichever way you want to look at this. You know what I mean? Because a huge amount of research has gone into this. Yeah. And the idea that human beings can perceive things beyond the scope of normal, known bodily senses has been around for a hell of a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's had different names.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's been around for a hell of a long time. But the modern conception didn't develop until the first half of the 20th century, which was actually by J.B. Rhine. Now, he was a very respected scientist who conducted paranormal research in a university laboratory, or laboratory, however you want to say it, because I get caned for how I say words these days.
Well, at the end of the day, what he has done in his research is what's been going on for years, but not proven, not written about, etc., etc. What I would just like to say is, if you get a scenario on a conditioned experiment where one person in, say, the other side of the country picks up on something the other person says something or imagines, how much of that do you take out of it is luck or coincidence?
No, I think this goes beyond
No.
luck or coincidence.
Yeah, it goes
This
way
goes
beyond.
beyond luck
yeah.
or coincidence because you know things that you there's no way of knowing.
Okay. Well, let's just ask a certain person who just joined. Ashley.
Got dragged onto this one, didn't I?
Yeah, well, you knew this was going to happen. We're talking about ESP and telepathy.
Firstly, if there's any weird sounds from the background, it's my son playing Fortnite.
Yeah, well, you're going to need to tell Harley to be quiet for at least 15 minutes.
I have told him that, and he said he's going to do it, but I can't promise he gets a bit emotional. Gets a bit emotional about the game.
So
what's the question?
Ashley, you asked a question in the chat room about this whole scenario, what we're talking about. I just want to ask you a question, being somebody that has researched a lot of things in the paranormal. What are your views, and what do you think is right or wrong about what we're talking about tonight?
Right, telepathy-wise, I see telepathy or telepathic interaction as I can see you all. It's really weird. I see telepathic interaction as basically the transference of information in certain scenarios. So basically, it doesn't matter if it's mind to mind or person to person or an animal to a person or a person to an animal or an environment to an animal or anything like that. It's the transference of information to a mind in order to allow you to pick up something. So when you put it into a paranormal investigation kind of scenario, that information could then be transferred into being your ghosts, your spirits, and all that kind of stuff as well, because it's also the blueprint or the overlap or the overlay that goes over into the environment, so you can see that kind of thing. That's one idea that I've got, not proven. However, if you go back to the stuff you were talking about earlier, J.B. Ryan was one of the forefathers of looking into this kind of stuff, the Xenocard trials, and he went all to the automatic Xenocards, and he improved that brilliantly. And he was the first one, I think, to use statistical analysis to make sure that was all properly done. And yeah, it did come under scrutiny, but in the end, they kind of got knocked down because of the fact that his mathematics and his statistical analysis of it was so good that.
Sorry, Ashley, can I just ask a question quickly?
Yeah, jump in.
What are you talking about? We're talking not statistical.
Statistical. I think it's a statistical.
I do apologise. I am such a bad boy. What I was saying is...
Quid in the jar, mate. Quid in the jar.
I know. I'm putting change quid in the jar at the moment because the way I've done tonight. You're saying number-wise, they've obviously done tests.
Yeah.
Just for the people that are listening, what sort of numbers are we talking about? Are we talking 5 people, 10 people?
No.
People?
No, there was a lot of people.
That's what I want to understand.
Hang on a second, because I can probably give you that number. I think it's like something like one of the early ones. I think it was like 24 people took part, and I think they've done. I could be wrong on this, but double check. I think it's something like 800 trials or something like that, and out of that they got 207 hits, which 160 odds would have been chance, and obviously 207 is way above 160 odds, so that makes it above chance. If that's if I can remember. Hang on, I'm just trying to. I've actually got it written down somewhere.
We have too somewhere in this research. I can't find it. Kaz, can you find it?
I'm looking.
I know, I'm looking as well. We have actually got this written down somewhere, but I can't find the statistics. But I know at one point it was 1,000,000 to 1 that they would have got it right. So what Ashley said in the chat room earlier was like 1,000,000 to 1 against the odds of the person getting it right, which is quite a high odd. You know what I mean? When you think about it. Oh gosh, I really hate that when you've done the research and you can't find it in the research because you've.
It's 24 subjects yielded an overall score of 207 hits and 800 trials. As a 5 different symbols, it all works out to about 1,000,000 to 1.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're saying is there was 24 people over a certain amount of tests that were asked to do a certain thing. Or a certain thing, and out of that they worked out the percentage ratio to their answers is this. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, it's all done at Duke University.
No, I'm not saying either way. I'm just trying to get in my head because I'm a big tech guy. I'm trying to work out the number ratio to potentially that you could look at to take that into something further. So
it took it out the realms of chance and coincidence, basically, is what it did.
That's basically what I'm trying to rule out in my head at the moment.
Yeah, that's exactly what that experiment did, is it took it out of the realms of chance and coincidence.
So what was the percentage, Ashley, on people that hit it?
Percentage I couldn't say off the top of my head because I haven't got a calculator in front of me, and it's Friday night. But they hit 207 hits out of the 800 trials. To get a chance would have been 160 hits, but 207, did I say? Yeah, 207 hits, so they're above chance. And they used the same kind of approach with the Gansfield experiment, and that's why that also done so well over the years.
Exactly.
So just to put that into terms of people listening, you've got more chance of doing the lottery than you have of doing the experiment that they've done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
I'm not speaking out of turn.
No. It definitely took it out of the realms of coincidence and pure luck, basically.
Which winning the lottery is something in the region of 14 million to 1.
Yeah.
So,
but we still have a go at that.
Everybody does that.
It's less than that's 1 million to 1.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm trying to say to the people listening is, when it comes down to the crunch, when it's been investigated and researched and looked at scientifically, you have got more chance of winning the lottery with a pound to win whatever than picking up on whatever's happening on up here.
Which kind of goes, okay, so something's going on. So what is it that's going on? Is it an energy transfer?
And I don't like to use the word energy.
Kaz?
See, there's different ways of looking at it. I think emotionally it's a bond.
I agree.
I think I have to agree with that from research that I've done, things that I've looked at, observations and stuff like that. When it comes to telepathic interaction, the best people that seem to really do it well seem to be people that have some kind of bond, some kind of connection, stuff like that. And that, if you put it into other circumstances as well, if you put it into a seance kind of environment, if you put it into a Victorian kind of seance, the first thing they used to do before that was they'd have kind of like a socialising evening where they used to spend time talking to each other, learning about each other and getting used to each other. So they're bonding at the beginning of the evening. So when they sit down and have their seance sort of thing, that bond has been built a little bit. So all of a sudden, that's probably why things work the way they do. And that's, I think that emotional bond, that link, if you like, is the important part. Knowing things about people and individuals is very important.
And how many times have we said that a well-bonded investigation team works better than a team that's just a thrown-together team?
More times than the fingers on my hand.
Exactly. You know, this is one of the key points of, getting the right team surrounding you. And we bandy terms around like para-family and, that kind of thing. But that is why it's so important, because it creates a better energy link. Regardless of which way it happens, it creates a better energy transference or energy link to whatever that you can create with just a team that you don't really know each other and have that bond with. So are we then saying that the telepathic interaction between the team, because of the bond that's created between people, is more important than ESP?
No.
Carl says no.
Carl says no.
No, my own personal view is you have to, the biggest thing on any team, whether it's 1, 2, 12, 25 or 50 people, you have to trust. And trust, I think, is the biggest thing on any...
But trust is built, Carl.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, let me finish. Trust is obviously built up on going on investigations and doing stuff, and you get to know how everybody works.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you have to, if you are seriously trying to push the field forward when it comes to an aspect which can be a bit of a bucket around your legs, telepathy, mediumship, or whatever you want to say, you have to be able to trust those people that 100%. And then you have to look at it and then look at the... I don't want to say this, but really bugs me that I'm going to say this. You have to look at the data. So what they hit, what is the percentage of what they hit on every single time you go out? Because it's not a spur of the moment, a one-off investigation, because you can make whatever views percentage-wise you want to do. What we're talking about, which I hope I'm talking about what you guys are thinking about, is you've got that position where you look at something and look at one investigation, then look at another investigation, another one, and then you've got that corroborating data to then look at. Is that right? Or am I...
Yeah, no, I agree.
No, you're dead right. No, you're right.
But I think, and I don't know if Kerry was going to jump into the same comment here, but I think you mentioned trust there, and I think trust is something that's built out of an emotional bond anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree. Same thing. Yeah. But you need the data to back it up.
Kaz, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Out of probably the four of us that are talking on this tonight on the radio, you're probably one of the only persons out of the four that is actively out week in, week out on investigations.
Right.
And you are a person that I know personally that picks up on stuff and does stuff. What's your views on it?
Have you a pump, Sam?
That's the size of Harley.
When it comes to a team, you need to... The trust thing does need to be built up. It really does. But, I mean, you do get team members. When there is trust in this team, then everybody's got the strengths and everybody's got different ways of communicating and everybody's got different ways of picking things up. So you kind of learn them and utilise them as best you can.
Yeah.
When you're investigating.
I agree with that.
On the whole subject to what we're talking about on the ESP or the mediumship or whatever we want to talk about it, what are your personal views on that when you're in an investigation? I know that's a hard question to ask, and I do apologise. You can sack me later.
It's difficult because, like I said, everybody's got the strengths. So you might have somebody who's clairaudient, and you've got someone else who's clairvoyant, and you've got someone else who's clairsentient. Do you know what I mean? You've got to utilise those different gifts with different people when you're working. You do have to use them, I think.
Utilise, I think, is the better word.
to be honest with you, to me, that's more important than the tech stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Me and Daniel always get a water bottle tonight.
So, when you're on an investigation, Kaz...
I see people.
I love Harley's sides. He's so relevant. He's so relevant.
Sorry, listeners.
Harley's just asked a question I was trying to word.
You see people.
When you're on an investigation, I know you use equipment, and I know you use your own senses.
Yes.
Or your own abilities.
Yes.
What do you rely on more? Is it senses, ability, or are you driven to react to certain elements like equipment, are you...
No, you react first before equipment will come into it.
Can I be honest with you? The equipment, 9 times out of 10, the only equipment that I'm interested in is the camera for recording and EVP if I'm doing a session. That is it. The rest of it, I will be honest with you, my personal equipment, I hand out 9 times out of 10 to other people and they use it because I would rather go with my feelings and where I'm being drawn to and go with that before I trust the equipment. That will always come first. The feelings will always come first and then you go and use the equipment.
Okay. In that case, when it comes down to the question about empathy, extrasexual perception, or whatever. Do you think that is more important on an investigation, or do you think that you need a mixture of both to collaborate everything?
Mixture of both.
Both.
I will give you that. You need a mixture of both. But
if we're going to move, if we're going to move the field forward, sorry, Kaz, to jump in over you. If we're going to move the field forward, we need the collaboration of both to be able to. You need that cue from the spiritual or sensory side to then cue where the tech then comes in to see if we can back that up with the tech. But you need to know what you're recording with the tech. That's the integral part of this. And that is my personal point of view. Bearing in mind I work like Kaz does spiritually in the field. I don't do tech in the field at all.
I try and do both.
I know you do, Kaz.
You need to be monitoring what's going on and documenting it and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, half the time, but half the time you have to be triggered by what's going on in that environment that you're investigating, like you said. So you can't. So you're always going to be led, I think, by the ESP if you want, and then you're going to come back to your tech and your notepad
and your data.
Scribble.
I was actually. It wasn't even. Well, was it an investigation? It was more a kind of ghost walk thing, but everybody, and I knew these people well, were being led in a particular route, and I was literally being drawn sideways. So you had like 30 people going one way, me going another. But when I went up that end, I got an EVP. Because I felt I should be up there. I did an EVP session, I got an EVP. They went that way and got nothing.
Yeah.
So is that extrasensory perception? Is that because you picked up something that you think you drew you to go and then record, or is that a spirits talking to you kind of thing?
It's really hard to explain. Ashley, it's like you're physically being pulled. It's physically being pulled in another direction.
You can't explain that feeling of you need to be over there.
I think that's the whole.
Where you're being drawn to.
Yeah.
I think that's the whole subject what we've been discussing tonight. Whether you put your tag onto this, that, or whatever. It's something that we can't. It's something that if you put in your hand, it just slips through your fingers. It's fluid.
It's so intangible.
But at the end of the day, we're not saying people are liars or people are whatever. What we're saying is, if you believe it and you know what's going on and you can collaborate it in this, that, and the other, then that's great. And that's where it comes down to, is that it's an unproved science, what we do. And paranormal is an unproved science.
Yeah.
Yes.
We could sit here every day of the week and scream from the housetops that we're doing this, that, and the other, and that. And somebody down there in the little mud hut or whatever will say, "Hang on, can you prove it?" And everybody that will talk about it will go, "No, sorry."
I disagree.
Oh,
really?
We've got a disagreement in the room.
Yeah, no, I disagree. I think now where we are at this point, where we are in the game with parapsychologists, universities doing what they do, I think we'd be naive to say that we can't prove certain things, and I think we'd be wrong to say that we can't prove things. Granted, we can't prove ghosts and spirits right now, but there's a hell of a lot more that we can prove, and I think we have to be realistic about it.
At this moment in time, you can't prove that there's spirits.
No, you can't prove that. No, agreed.
Then that's what I'm saying.
I can prove there's levels of telepathy. I can prove there's levels of ESP. I can prove there's levels of that through Gansfield experiment, through Ryan's experiments.
No, I'm talking a generic Joe public coming into the field, listening, researching, and doing all their bits of the things that people should do before they do stuff, and then they realise.
But Carl, we established at the top of the show, right at the beginning, that everybody has some form of ability that if it's strange, you can utilise it and you can work
Correct.
on it and you can develop it. So
Correct.
right at the top of the show, we discussed that. This is not a exclusive club.
No.
And we know there are areas of the mind that haven't been explored. There are many, many areas in science that haven't been fully explored and explained. You know, I mean, some people are viewing this as a spillover from another reality, another dimension, you know, that we're picking up on. Our normal awareness of this existence is not the same as what we pick up on our unconscious level. But we can't, you know, there are no scientific experiments where you can go, well, there we go, we've accessed the unconscious of this person. There's a lot of theories and a lot of different ways of looking at it in that way. So it's very difficult. It's an incredibly difficult subject.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I think the open discussion that myself, Kaz, Ashley and you have on regular occasions into the field and people that elsewhere or whatever, not just saying on the show tonight. We have these conversations not on air, but we have these all the time.
Oh, we do. Yeah. We certainly do.
And we disagree.
And we disagree on an awful lot of occasions too. Anyway, we have come to the end of the show. We are running over. One thing is for sure, JB Ryan was well, he is often dubbed as the father of parapsychology. So if you don't know who JB Ryan is, then I suggest you guys go out there and do your research and have a look into him. As I say, he started off this whole methodology and experimentation with his Zener cards, and it is definitely worth looking into, because it led on to a whole different way of looking at ESP and telepathy in regards to what people can do. Anyway, on that note, oh my God, that was a deep discussion for a Friday evening, wasn't it, Kaz?
Yeah, it was.
Thank you so much for joining us in the chat room. Thank you so much for listening. We will be back on Sunday evening. I am back on Sunday evening. I've actually got Claire Hinks back in the studio. We were unable to pin down Taz this week. We are working on rebooking her. And me and Claire are catching up with everything that Claire Hinks has been up to. And she's been up to some fantastic things. So tune in Sunday evening, 9 p.m. on the Spirit Dimension. Oh my goodness. Don't forget, we have all our shows over on our YouTube channel, Parasearch Radio. Click, like, share and subscribe. And don't forget our Sharing and Caring event that is happening on the 18th of May next year. If you want to be part of that, go over to our website, parasearchradio.com. Register your event. You'll be getting sent a pack which is full of information that you're going to need. And then we'll be able to know who's involved in this event, and we can help talk to you guys and bring you onto a show and, you know, do all those lovely promotional things that you guys love. On that note, thank you so much for joining us. Say good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
And we will see you back here at 9 p.m. on Sunday. Thank you so much. Good night and farewell.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.